There were so many good things on Sunday, but in the end, it's a loss to the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers in week one for the Jets, 34-32. This is the four downs edition of Flight Plan. Thanks for joining us. This game had a little bit of everything, Zach. Unfortunately, a fluke ricochet catch and a 60-yard field goal in the end spells doom for the Jets. We're going to break it down into the four major plays, moments, themes of the game here. Thank you for joining us, Tim McMaster, Zach Rosenblatt. Give us a review, give us a like, all those different things. I appreciate you hanging out with us. Prime time on a Sunday. Due to scheduling, we're coming to you early. We usually do this on Monday, but getting right to it. Zach, I appreciate you being available because I know after the game things are crazy and you just scarfed down some pizza, I think. But I'll start here before we get into the four downs real quick because Aaron Rodgers referenced it a little bit, and I'll get back to it again when we talk about Aaron Rodgers. But what was the vibe like at MetLife? He mentioned how it was not the same as 2 years ago, which is kind of a propping himself up and a shot. But we talked before this game about how well the Steelers travel. So what was it like at the stadium?
It was really good vibe. The Steelers did travel well. I think, I don't know if it was like 50-50. The Steelers fans were loud though. Like you got to give them that. And you could see so the thing is, like, I think like the coloring, like yellow stands out more than the green that most Jets fans wear, I would say. So I think it probably feels like there's more Steelers fans than actually are there. But like if I was putting a percentage on it, I'd say probably like 60% Jets, 40% Steelers, which is still pretty good for a road.
And they're
travel.
all waving towels too.
Yeah, but the Jets fans were loud. I think the energy was good. You know, the tailgating was completely packed. Like I've covered a lot of games where there's no. I mean, usually week one is pretty full, but like it was a rainy day at the start of the day, so it was good energy. And then they put on an offensive show. Like, you know, there's a lot of other things around that, obviously, but like, and we'll get into that. But I mean, it was a fun game. Like it was like an actual fun game, not like, you know, some of those Jets final scores where it looks like it was a close game, but it was actually the Jets like blowing a huge lead or a bunch of stupid stuff happened. Some stupid stuff happened here, not as bad as usual, but sorry. As we said, I just scarfed down some pizza. So if you're wondering why I'm having all this acid reflux live on the air, it's because I didn't eat dinner. I just got home after writing and doing a TV hit.
Didn't even have time to put a hat on. For God's
I know. Yeah. Well, this is game, Zach. I don't wear hats to the stadium, so
yeah,
you're seeing me without a hat.
I wore the hat instead. All right. Well, let's get into it because you're talking about the offense, and that's where we're starting. So let's get in. First down, Justin Fields. I mean, if Jets fans were to draw up what they want to see from Justin Fields, like this was it. This was like exactly what you want. 16 of 22 for 218 yards. We've said it, like he's probably not going to throw for 300 yards much this year. 218, a touchdown passing, no interceptions, 2 more touchdowns on the ground along with 48 yards. That's the good. The bad, Zach. The final drive, 1 for 4, 7 yards, and obviously they lose. That was with a minute to play after the long field goal trying to win it. But like overall, big picture, like if this is Justin Fields that the Jets get all season, I think it changes expectations to, we've said like, you know, 7-10, 6-11. I don't know, like 9-8. Like things. If this is what we see week in, week out, I think this is a different team than we kind of expected to see this year. But yeah, it's one game.
Yeah, that's the challenge of week one. Is you have to remember, like, this is also the first. I'm gonna flip it because I am positive on this team after this game, so I don't want people to think I'm being negative. But like, you have to remember, this is the first time anybody's seeing Tanner Engstrand call plays, and this is really the first time anybody's seeing Justin Fields in this offense. So I will say though, you know, he did all this against a defense that is supposed to be one of the 5 best in the NFL. Like I was just texting with Mike DeFabo, who we had on our show the other day from The Athletic, and he said, if they're not a top 5 defense, this would be disappointing. He's like, that's the best game I've seen Justin Fields play. He covered him for 6 games last year. He was in control. Pressure didn't really phase him. He only got hit once, like the O-line we're going to get into, but the O-line was great. And he was a threat to run the ball, which opened things up for Breece Hall in the running game. And he made some really good throws. Like his throw to Garrett down the field was really, really good. I know Garrett was one-on-one and you're going to take that every time, but he placed it perfectly. And he had He had a great throw. I think it was in the third quarter, I want to say, where he was evading the pass rush. He was on the run. While moving, he threw it across the field to the middle of the field to Tyler Johnson for like a 20-something yard completion. It was a risky throw. The defender was right there, but he like got it in just perfectly, and he got a completion. And that, I think that eventually led to a touchdown, I believe. I got to go back. Sorry, this is all, I'm coming right out of the field, basically, or right out of the stadium. But, you know, I was highly impressed with him, and I'm very curious to see if he can build on this.
Yeah, and one more stat, and then we can move on to second down. According to PFF, heading into Sunday night game, which two pretty good quarterbacks playing on Sunday night with the Bills and Ravens, but heading into that game, the Jets, the highest successful play rate in the league today, according to PFF. I mean, this is not the offense that this is not the last 2 years offense. I mean, it seemed, I guess while we're talking about Fields, just real quick, you know, mention just the plays in general and first time play caller calling his first game and what stood out to you.
For Tanner Engstrand, yeah, you know, I thought he called a really good game. I mean, the running game was really on point. There was a lot of pre-snap motion. You know, there were some play calls that I thought were questionable, mainly the 2-point conversion play calls where they kind of ran up the middle with Braylon Allen, and it was not a great call. And I thought the call to throw it in the fourth quarter when they were going for it for two, where they threw it when the running game was working so well, and Justin Fields just scored on a a bootleg where nobody was there. They went and tried to force a throw to Garrett Wilson, which was a disaster. So those were bad, but I thought he did a really good job of getting Garrett Wilson in a position to make plays. Breece Hall, both in the passing game and the running game, and just like scheming up, even like the tight ends, like he schemed Jeremy Ruckert open on a couple plays on third down. Jeremy Ruckert had a pretty good game. And I mean, they scored on their first 4 possessions. Like they pretty rarely scored on their first possession, even field goals. There was a stat that they didn't punt in the first half, and they hadn't done that since at least 1991, I believe it was. Like that's like they didn't punt in the first half for the first time since like that long. Like teams that have good offenses often don't punt in the first half. So it's a low bar to clear for Tanner Engstrand, but so far it's good. But we need to see what he does for encores, what he does going forward. The Bills are a really good follow-up test for him, and we're going to find out what that looks like.
All right, and second down here on the show as we work our way through 4 is actually the 2 guys you mentioned there, which is Breece Hall and Garrett. They were, I mean, some of the worry with Fields is like, are these guys going to be able to shine? And they both were able to shine. Breece Hall, 19 carries, 107 yards. Garrett Wilson, 7 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, we've talked about the lack of offensive firepower as far as receiving targets on this team and how it's Garrett and then it's a drop off, and that kind of played out in this game. But you had Garrett and you had Breece picking up the slack a little bit in the receiving game. You mentioned Ruckert. As long as somebody's stepping up, I guess, in receiving, it's going to work. And they only threw it 22 times, so there's not that many opportunities. Throwing it 22 times and Garrett gets 7 catches, that'll work. The one thing I'll point out for that, Braylon Allen, who, not to throw you under the bus here, Zach, but you praised all summer, obviously, and for good reason. He looked great all summer. 6 carries, 19 yards. So that was a little disappointing. And we didn't really see as much of the running back by committee as I think we expected to. It was really Breece.
Yeah, I think what we saw is they rode the hot hand because Breece was running really, really well. Like one of the biggest takeaways outside of Fields is that looked like the Breece pre-ACL injury to me. Like he was hitting the hole really hard. He was making plays after contact. He was making plays in the passing game. Like he looked like their best offensive weapon. And Braylon, like the short yardage stuff wasn't as much there for him. He did have a really good touchdown run. He carried a couple guys on his back and got in the end zone there. I still think he's going to have a good season, but I think and I think a lot of people underestimated Breece a little bit because he looked legit. It wasn't just like runs that were manufactured by good run blocking, because there was a lot of run blocking. Like it was him with burst making plays. His first carry of the game went for 18 yards, and it was clear that he's going to be a guy that could have a big year in this run heavy offense. I don't think it's going to be like that every week, but again, the Steelers are supposed to be a really good defense. Run defense was an issue for them last year. Guy they drafted in the first round is hurt and not playing. Cam Hayward was like in and out of the lineup, but he played today. But at the end of the day, like this is an offensive line that also that like went through a bunch of changes in this week. And Breece and Garrett both had really good games. That we haven't seen them both performing at that level in a while at the same time. Garrett seemed really happy with Justin Fields. Like Fields was looking for him a lot.
His boy, right?
And it's his boy, but I don't know. There's something to be said. Like he was getting the ball in positions that I feel like Rodgers wasn't consistently trying to get him the ball, especially late in the season, at least, in the red zone, down the field, things like that. And their connection is clearly real. You still need somebody else to emerge wide receiver wise. Like you're just not going to be able to survive with one receiver all season long. But the Jets didn't have anybody accidentally getting wide open like the Steelers did. And the Steelers have a wide receiver 2 problem too, but like Calvin Austin wide open on his touchdown. Calvin Austin made a play on Brandon Stevens. Also, we'll get into him in a little bit, but like the Steelers, Ben Skowronek was wide open on his touchdown early in the game. Like the Jet, none even the Jets guys even accidentally got wide open. Josh Reynolds had a catch in the second half. I didn't see Arian Smith. I don't even know if he got many offensive snaps. Xavier Gipson was out there, didn't do anything. Lazard was a healthy scratch, by the way. That was newsy before the game. A little bit of a surprise. Kind of, if you like break it down, it makes a little sense because what's his role on this team? He doesn't play special teams, but because it's Lazard, like it was interesting. And my conspiracy theory is that maybe if they get rid of him this week, they were just waiting so he couldn't go to the Steelers before week 1. But
that's been a lot of people's conspiracy.
Yeah. But yeah, so Garrett, Breece, arrow pointing up for sure. And if you want to feel good about this offense, you have your quarterback, your running back, and your wide receiver 1 all looking like that. Like that's good.
All right. So we talked positive, first and second down, but this was a loss. So we got to look at the other side as well. Third down, same old Jets vibes, parts of this game. I'm just going to bring up 2 plays that were kind of bunched together and really felt like a turning point to me watching the game, which was Jets have a nice lead. They give the ball back to the Steelers, have the ball, and the Jets get a nice 2-yard loss, pushing the back out of bounds. And Quincy Williams Aaron Glenn must have been beside himself on the sideline. Quincy Williams, he's 2 steps out of bounds, drills him with a late hit. It was an obvious late hit. Yeah. So there's 15 yards, jump starts the drive. They go down and score. Ensuing kickoff, Xavier Gipson fumbles it away. Steelers get the ball, score 2 plays later, and suddenly the Steelers are in the lead. And we talk about aggressive penalties, which is really what the Quincy Williams one was, right? He was being Quincy Williams. He was just late on the sideline. So that is one thing. It's something that has to be cleaned up, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Gipson, the quote after the game from Glenn, right, was like, guys that cost us games aren't going to be here. So I don't know if that's a direct, I don't know what that means for Xavier Gipson.
So he was pretty upset about the penalties too. Like he definitely lumped penalties in with that, but Arian Smith returned a kick later in the game. So, it's not funny, but like Xavier had a couple good returns earlier in the game. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't have been out there as a kick returner if Kene Nwangwu didn't get hurt, by the way. So he's not even their primary kick returner, but he had to be out there because of an injury. And then he had a terrible fumble at a terrible time, and Steelers turned right around and scored. That was like the kind of thing I was talking about, like the Jets of old.
Yeah, that's
totally the kind of mistake. And just the worst possible time. Even Xavier said that after the game he spoke. That's the worst possible time to. And you don't want to fumble at any time, but that's the worst possible time. And so if Aaron Glenn is like his mentors, Sean Payton and Bill Parcells in particular, like you're not going to let that stand. So I'm curious what happens with Xavier. I don't know if they're going to cut him tomorrow, but I'd be surprised if he was their kick returner again. We'll see about punt returning. They do have Jamal Pritchett on the practice squad, but Aaron Glenn, he's saying all the right things, but we need to see if those words leads to action. Like it's easy for him to say, like, if you make these mistakes, you're off the team or you're not going to play or whatever. But is that going to amount to something in the game? Like if Quincy Williams makes that, Quincy Williams is one of your best players. It would say a lot if, let's say he has a bad penalty in the first quarter, you're not going to do it in the fourth, but are you going to take him out for a play and be like, can't do that or you're not going to play. Like, are you willing to do that level of sort of thing? And I'm not saying he has to do that with one of your star players, but just the broad like messaging, like accountability is a word that was thrown around a lot with the last regime, and they were not actually doing anything about it. I feel like Aaron Glenn's going to be better about that, but we're going to find out in these coming days and weeks, and we're going to find out in the way that will they improve on these things, because they didn't really have many penalties early in the game. There was like a false start, I want to say in like the second quarter or something like that was the first one. And so, but getting penalties in those moments is worse than just getting a bunch of penalties. So they need to clean that stuff up. Like, this is there's a lot of things they need to clean up. There's reasons for pessimism and there's reasons for optimism, and there's probably an equal amount of both of them. I have more reasons for pessimism about the defense, but the mistakes that they made are just unacceptable, ultimately, as he said.
And same old Jets. It's partly this, and then the ricochet catch too is the other kind where it's just dumb bad luck, where it's late in the game. Steelers are trying to get something going. Sauce is all over DK Metcalf like he was all day, and we can get into that a little bit. And the ball pops up into the air, and he just ends up catching it for a first down and gets him just about in field goal range for a crazy long kick. But it's like the combination of these things, right? With this fluke play, the dumb penalty, the fumble. I will say this about the fumble and the touchdown. The Jets go down there, and you could say, like, as a Jets fan or whatever, that's usually where that's it, right? The Jets roll over and lose the game. Whereas this Jets team came back and led this game again after that.
Yeah. Sorry, could you? I just zoned out and was thinking of something else. What was the question?
No,
Sorry,
it wasn't really a question.
There.
I was just saying that when you talk about same old Jets, they give up the touchdown, they fumble, they give up the touchdown. You think that's it, like, right?
Yes,
that's it for this game. They're just gonna roll over.
Yeah.
Whereas in this game, the Jets actually came back and led again.
Yeah. I mean, they had 2 fourth quarter leads and lost the game, which feels like something from last year. I mean, this losing on a 60-yard field goal. I mean, Boswell is like as good as it gets in the NFL right now, but like, that's a tough way. Like, I think Aaron Glenn was saying they knew that his career high was less than that before, so I think they were comfortable with him getting to the 40-yard line or whatever it was when they attempted the field goal. And he would have made it from like 70. So, but I mean, the DK Metcalf catch was like the ultimate. Like, the Jets still have bad luck. They don't have. Oh, there was a funny moment. Can't remember when in the game it was, but there was at one point in a crucial moment. I think the Jets were threatening in the red zone. So it was before one of their touchdowns. They called a penalty, and they called it a number 5, and they said it was because of like blocking, and they said against the offense, and then the ref was like, "Oh wait, no, actually it was against the defense, number 5." So they all walked back the other way. And I was like, okay, maybe things are turning, because usually they don't get, like, the refs don't work in their favor. But in the end, they still had the Jets' bad luck. And that's kind of what I wrote about. Like, if this Jets fans, and there's some that are already like out because they're tired of hearing about moral victories, and they showed signs and they can build on it. Like, everybody's really just wants this team to just be actually good. And so when these things happen, it's like, okay, here we go again. But at the same time, I think it is okay to look at the positives from a week 1 game. Like, week 1 is where hope springs eternal. Look at how Justin Fields did, how Breece Hall, the offensive line, some aspects of the pass rush, a lot of other stuff we need to talk about. But like, there's still reasons to feel like this team can turn it around, I think.
And that brings us to 4th down, because we have to talk about Aaron Rodgers, the elephant in the room, coming back to MetLife. 22 of 30, 244 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. How many times last year was there a chance for Aaron Rodgers to lead a 4th quarter drive to give this team a win? And then he does it to beat them today. Granted, he got the help of the crazy ricochet and the kick, but all that. And then after the game, I mean, he's not going to like not take the opportunity, right? When the question comes. And I know it was toward the end of the press conference, and it was basically like, hey, Aaron Glenn basically told you that, you weren't going to be a good part of this team. And he said, yeah. And then here's the rest of the quote and the follow-up on that.
happy to beat everybody associated with the Jets. The excitement that we had back in 9/11/23, running out on the field, I mean, the energy definitely felt different week one today. I think anybody who was there can feel that there was a major difference. And then to have the season taken away like that, and to battle back and have a rough season last year, like I said this last week, I gave as much as I could to the team, and it didn't work out. I didn't have any hard feelings about it not working out. Now, I didn't maybe appreciate the way that it went down in the end, but that's in the past, and we're 1-0.
Now, the final 80% of that quote is like, that's what you say. You took the high road and all this stuff. But obviously he started with like, it feels good to beat anyone associated with the Jets, which to me, Zach, I mean, that's calling out the players. Like that's going deep. Like it's one thing to say, yeah, it felt good to beat the guy who kicked me out of here and like all that. But like he went anyone associated with the Jets.
Well, so I think the question was specifically about Aaron Glenn and the way it ended.
Right.
And so I think he was more saying like, I'm just happy I beat the Jets, but also Aaron Rodgers is smart and he phrases things a certain way. But just knowing the situation, I'm guessing that was directed at Aaron Glenn and Woody Johnson more than like individual play. Like
more than like Garrett Wilson and
I mean him and Garrett, maybe Garrett's lumped in there.
Or Quinn or like someone on the
but defense. Like before the game, we watched as guys went over and over. We're coming up to him. Jermaine Johnson had like an emotional hug with him. Quinnen hugged him. Breece had a convo with him, and Breece talked about how he texted him this morning to try and rattle him a little bit, like jokingly. I saw a PR guy go up to him, the team president. I saw a ball boy that he knew from the Jets. Like, so there's a lot of people who don't hate Rodgers in that building still. Yeah. And Rodgers likes a lot of people in the building, but there's also the flip side for sure. And he definitely, I mean, he couldn't help but keep bringing up how he didn't appreciate the way they ended it or whatever. But your point, I actually didn't hear the quote until you brought it up about how this wasn't as good of an environment as when he ran out of there, which is true, but it's still funny that he's just like, that wasn't as good as when everybody was excited about me. So let's calm down.
Right. Exactly. But he was real good today.
He was. I don't think he was like amazing. I think he was fine. Right. My thing was Aaron Rodgers is always going to be good at like attacking your mess ups, and the Jets had a lot of mess up. Like I thought the Jets lost more than the Steelers beat them. Like I said, they left a bunch of guys wide open, and Aaron Rodgers hit them. He didn't throw the ball deep very much. There was some bad tackling early in the game where DK Metcalf broke a really bad Tony Adams tackle, and a Michael Carter one later. Like I thought he looked really old when they actually got to him pressure wise. They got a few sacks. Jermaine looked really good.
McDonald got his Will McDonald talked about sack him, right? His whole life. And he got a sack. So
he got two sacks. Quinnen looked really good. Like that trio looked really good. They just had other issues on defense. But I think Rodgers is perfectly fine. You can win with him. I think the Steelers have some questions on that offense actually, but I mean, he had 4 touchdowns and 0 picks. Like there's nothing to sniff at.
Let's talk about the issues on the defense. Sauce shut down DK for the most part. And we talked about Sauce traveling and like how that's going to be this year. And that's what you want, right? You want your number one corner, your all pro caliber corner, taking that guy and doing what he did for most of the game. Do they have issues on the other side?
Yeah, I've my concerns from this game are rooted in the defense, honestly. Like the pass defense was bad. Like the back end was a problem outside of Sauce. Sauce traveled with DK, by the way. Mm-hmm. And the couple of plays where he wasn't on him is when DK made plays. And Sauce was funny. Sauce, he like can't help himself when he knows he had a good game. He has like a smirk to him when he's talking. And, he was asked about how he felt like it went against DK. He's like, oh, you know how it is. But then he's like, the one catch he had on me was the one where he bobbled it and happened to stumble into a catch, and then it led to what it led to. But Sauce shut him down. Like I said, the D-line I thought did solid. But the back end was just a problem. Like Tony Adams did not look good. Brandon Stevens had a rough game. Like there's a catch I alluded to earlier with Calvin Austin. It was a good throw, a great catch. Like it was a Moss type situation, but like Brandon Stevens didn't turn his head. Like that was the whole thing with him all year. with the Ravens, and he looked like he had solved it in camp. He did not turn it around, and there was a big catch. Maybe him turning his head wouldn't have changed anything, but he had a bad DPI that cost them. It was kind of an iffy call. I thought a couple plays later he probably could have been called for it, so it evened out. He was rough, and Michael Carter II didn't have a great game either. He missed on a couple of coverages, and it seemed like there's some miscommunication on the back end, and it was a problem. Sauce had a funny quote where he's like, basically was like, the offense scored 32 points. I don't think they really did that very much since I've been here, kind of thing. So we need to play complementary football. It was always the opposite. It was never the defense played poorly and the offense played well. It was either they both played well at the same time, not that often, or the offense did not carry their weight. And so the defense, I have concerns about the back end, especially because we've talked about safety being an issue. I felt good about Stevens based on his camp, but if this is what he is, it's a problem. You don't want to overreact, but he did not look good. So, and I wonder at what point Malachi Moore steps in for Adams, because he had these problems last year and he did not have a good game again. So I think I have concerns about the defense. They still have a lack of depth on the defensive line, even if it was pretty good. The linebackers, there's the bad penalties, but the Jets lost the game. They scored 32 points. So you just can't do that.
All right. That brings us to the end. Big takeaway, I think we've kind of covered it here, is the quarterback looks good. There's still some issues here with the Jets. And the schedule's, it's not going to get it easier right away here. So we'll see how it goes. Final takeaway from you, Zach? We'll say goodbye.
Yeah, we're going to next week is going to be interesting because the Bills are a really good team. So I don't have the game on right now. They're playing the Ravens as we're recording. The Jets, if Justin Fields can play like he did, I have a hard time believing they can beat the Bills. But if they can stay competitive with the Bills, then you have a winnable game against the Dolphins the week after, or the Bucs the week after that, and then the Dolphins the week after. The Dolphins look like trash. So, if you can get out of the stretch 2-2, you feel pretty good about this year ahead. They have a lot of concerns to fix. They have a lot of things to fix. We're going to find out how they respond to Aaron Glenn's coaching and his preaching on accountability. But I don't know. I came out of that feeling better about the Jets than I did before the game, frankly, because I had some concerns about the offense, and I have less concerns about the offense now, I would say.
And the defense, to me, feels like the more fixable unit, right? They have the talent. They got to get it right. So the Dolphins lost and looked terrible, you said. The Patriots lost and didn't look great against the Raiders. And the Bills are losing as we speak, late in the second quarter, though. So they're down a touchdown. So who knows how that ends up? Decent chance they come back and beat the Ravens. But as we record this right now, there's a world where we wake up and the whole division's 0-1. So who knows? We will be back later this week. We're starting up our 2 episodes a week cadence right now. So this is your 4 downs. Quick recap of the game. We'll be back later this week. We'll put a bow on this game at that point after a little more thought, I think. And then we'll also look ahead, of course, more to the Bills. So thank you to everybody for joining us here on the Flight Plan Podcast 4 Downs edition. We'll talk to everybody soon. Hey, yes, it's a loss, but there's reason to be optimistic. So go with that.